All right, we're here with Jason, and we're here at the anti-lockdown protest. So, what are you out here doing?
Well, I am out here showing my support. I don't usually go to protests. The first protest I went to was a D.C. Protest that happened a few days ago.
Oh, the Million
MAGA March
Oh,
is
that's
the
nice.
first. Is the very first one I went to. I found out about this one, and I was like, I got up and I just came here because showing support for what I believe in can't just be on Facebook anymore. It has to be more out in the streets peacefully.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think peaceful is the key word more than anything.
Yeah, that's the thing. So it's like I came out here just to kind of be a black person in New York City wearing a MAGA hat, so people can see that there's lots of different perspectives. And yeah, so I just came out just to fill my day with something other than cooking and cleaning.
Yeah, exactly. So Andrew Cuomo recently was awarded, or that Emmy award. That's weird to me how it's an Emmy. So I guess he really wanted to be in the spotlight. But what's your current opinion on that?
Well, to be honest, I heard about the Emmy a couple days ago, but it's kind of just about the whole big club, in terms of like Hillary Clinton got a Grammy, Obama got the Nobel Prize. These awards are not always about merit. They're about prestige and about how much money you can put into the system to receive them. I work in the theater companies, and I know that in order to kind of get an Oscar, you have to do all these party packages. So to see Cuomo getting a Grammy for his political discourse around COVID, it's not shocking. It's bizarre because that's what we've been living through. We're very
Well, at least for me, I think it's sort of like hypocrisy, like the living embodiment of hypocrisy, because New York still hasn't left the top 5 in COVID cases or COVID deaths. So I think it's kind of weird for them to say, "Oh, this is for your leadership and for your daily briefings." But most of the daily briefings was just him yelling at us to wear masks and social distance.
The most recent thing.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird because if you go in the subway, I mean, people wear masks, but social distancing doesn't exist down there underground. Yeah.
Well, just with the Emmy again, it's Cuomo didn't nominate himself. Someone, powers that be, gave it to him, and I think the question that I don't know, because I heard about this recently and I haven't done the research. I do a lot of research. Cuomo winning an Emmy is not something I'm going to go too deep into, but I do know there's a cash prize.
Oh, well, okay.
So
It's not like New York, he doesn't get it, or it's not like lining his pockets with New Yorkers' money isn't enough. He has to do it through an award.
Well, I mean, if you want to talk about lining pockets, the Emmy is nothing. Think about Cuomo runs the MTA. The MTA is losing money, but they got all this money to pay for cleaning. Where are we doing with this money? So it's like and De Blasio doesn't know anything about it. He's like, oh, let Cuomo take care of it. So there was a huge. It's all about money. It's all about money, and I'm sorry, Biden wants just the $9 million for his transition team.
The big guy, not big guy.
Oh, the big guy.
The big
guy.
The big guy.
A little Hunter action.
Yeah.
But so just in terms of Mayo Cuomo, I think that his behavior has been abominable, because one of the beginning things, they said 14 days to flatten the curve. Everyone shut down. Everyone got their beer. Everyone got their stuff and got their canned food, and it was good. And then there was a scale that we were going through. And then when we got to the end of the scale, they're like, "Oh, right, we did the scale, but we're not going to unlock." So I just find it very hypocritical and disgusting, and really more so just for the sake of NYC and the state at large, scary, because these officials are not making choices based on the needs of individuals of any stripes. It seems to me that they're making choices based on how their pocketbooks, their endowments, their rental properties can be continue to be bolstered.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And sort of to switch topics, in one of my other psychology classes, I've been reading a book called "Why Are All the Black Kids Sitting Together in the Cafeteria?" And it's a psychology book based off just like race in America, how people racially identify themselves. So if you don't mind me asking, how do you identify yourselves and identify yourself in terms of race?
In terms of race, human and American.
Yeah, I think that's the best answer. Yeah, because I was gonna ask. I feel like the media, the mainstream media, social media in general, are sort of pushing this agenda of being diverse. We need to have one of every person, one of every orientation. But I think the biggest thing they fear is intellectual diversity more than anything. So, I think one of the things they'll say is Trump is a racist. So, how do you feel about President Trump? Do you really think he's racist?
Oh gosh, no. No, I don't think he's racist. Now, if you were to push me and go deeper, I would say that everyone has a bias, and everyone maybe considers people of different skin colors or genders, and they have things when they see somebody of anything, they're going to make a choice, and that is based on the education they've been raised.
So it's sort of in line with like ignorance, if that makes sense. Where it's like if you don't know that person, if you don't have a black friend, if you don't have a gay friend, you wouldn't know. Or you're saying like. Because I thought of this once where it's like I would see a Hispanic woman, she would have 5 kids and a small little cart, no kids are in the cart. And I'm Hispanic myself, but sometimes I would say to myself like you need to stop. Like,
but that's your own personal thing and your thoughts. It's like what I'm saying is that there is bias. Yeah. There is preconceived notions, and that does exist. So therefore, if you want to use that rubric for everybody, then everybody is racist.
Yeah,
okay?
Exactly.
Donald Trump has been propagandized to the people as this, so that people can fight, so that people can have a reason to fight. I don't see that. And I'll even go further. If he is a complete KKK racist, he's done really good jobs for our country. I don't think he is, but
or he might be a bad racist.
A bad racist.
Yeah.
But one of the main things in terms about why are the black kids sitting together? Like with my child, like when they did Black History Month, they talked about Jackie Robinson, and one of the key features about Jackie Robinson was not that he was a great baseball player, is that he was acquiescent to the rules of the segregated society. So they were applauding and raised him up on it. So also, just last week, there was a class about suffrage, and it was talking about women's suffrage. Great, the right to vote, awesome. Black people get the right to vote, awesome. But what happened at the end of the conversation, it was, well, and who didn't give these people the right to vote? And the kids, 7-year-olds, were like, white people, And then we did another thing on race, and I pulled him out of somebody. They're like, and he looked at his skin, he's like, oh, I get judged by this? And it's like you were teaching these kids difference. Now, you're talking about you're taking a psychology class. There's a class that went forward when the teacher gave all the kids with brown eyes, said, you're less, and the people with blue eyes are more. And then they switched it, and they watched how the kids interacted with the idea of power hierarchies. That is what they're teaching the kids, and that is why people are being so biased, because they are literally teaching difference. Mm-hmm. They're saying, but they're doing it to the guise of diversity. Yeah. They're saying, look how different you are. Yeah. They're saying, look how you're different. It's great that you are different. And then also with the critical race theory and with the anti-racism, now they're saying, oh well, all white people have privilege. It doesn't matter who you are. You have privilege, and since you're not white, you don't. So it's okay. It's like whoa. And if I've had this conversation before, I've said I have privilege, and they're like, no, you don't. I'm like, yes, I do. I have the agency to vote. I have the agency to think. I have enough money in my pocket to get some food. I have friends. I have, it's like, how are you saying I don't have privilege? Yeah. And they're like, well, you don't, because you're not. I'm like, so how is it different from white supremacy? They're like, well, because
it's not white. White people aren't running it, but if you look at the crowd, it's all.
But they're like, oh, so anyway. So it's a little different, but it's like they're teaching division, and they're doing it under the guise of togetherness. Yeah. And this is something that I think I witnessed as a kid growing up, but it's something that is very invasive now with the 1,000 Talents Project, with all those programs. It's like they're teaching division, and what's really nefarious, and this is just me with my tinfoil hat on, is that it's a pointed nefariousness, it's a pointed divisionness, so that we tear ourselves apart. Yeah, exactly. And it's smart. I mean, like, I play chess, and what's happening is not dumb. It's ignorant, but it is a 3D chess about tearing us all apart. We're here at this march about lockdowns. They have New Yorkers, city never sleeps, going to bed at 9:30, wearing masks, and there's nothing open. We can go to like what, the barn? No, is that open? I don't know.
Over there. I don't know if you want to hand real quick, but like you can even see that the makeup store over there is still boarded up from the apparent peaceful protests that happen here a lot.
And that's a whole other thing, the peaceful protests. Like, I went to the Million MAGA March, super peaceful. People that, and I'm gonna be honest, if I looked at them and I were gonna use my bias, I'd be like, oh, those guys might for you, but they were just super friendly and they were helping me with putting my stuff out. They were chill people. And then later on the night, people started fighting, and it wasn't people who have American flags or hats on or MAGA hats on. It's people who are covering their face and wearing all black. It's like, I come out here. You asked me why I'm here. I came out here to stand up for my voice, stand up for our country, stand up for anybody, stand up for the people that I consider sheep and I think are silly. Stand up for those people so that everyone can get back to the normal struggles of life and impose these superimposed struggles of life.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here. And to be interviewed by cool people.
That too, yeah. Another quick question I have. So in this book, in the early chapters, it mentions heavily that racism isn't just an intellectual bias. It's that plus power. And what's your personal opinion about that when they say black people can't be racist, Hispanics can't be racist because they don't have the power?
Everyone can be racist, okay? And power is something that... So if you're thinking about redlining, that's the easiest example of power. So most of the bankers happen to be lighter skin tone, white, and if they are biased and they think that when a black person comes in and they're like, oh, this black... That's a whole other example in my brain. I'll come back to that. Then they can choose not to give a loan for business. So that is institutional bias racism. That exists. That has been dealt with.
Yeah.
And just like for Ruby Bridges, the first black girl to go to school, the institutional racism said, no, you can't go to school. But the power of our government sent people with guns so that she could go to school.
Yeah, exactly.
Our government did this so that even though it's racist and everyone's horrible, they still provided an opportunity through legal processes to get segregation. They did that. So the powers that be are not the powers that are. And that's what we're experiencing right now. The media is saying Biden won. Those are the powers that be. Like, whoa, we are saying this. But the powers that are the Supreme Court, are the federal judges, are all these small things. Like, we can't just respond to individual, even powerful individuals' biases and or racisms. We can only respond through the legal process. Now, if the legal process is flawed, we have amendments. We've been changing our government. We've been changing our system for the better. And the reason we can change it for the better is because we are aware of the flaws. Through free speech, through awareness, through reporting. We are aware, and we can therefore act. Now they're saying, don't go home to see Thanksgiving. They're saying, wear a mask, don't talk to anybody, don't get close to anybody, do not speak.
Thanksgiving's canceled. Don't forget that. Thanksgiving's canceled. No more than, 11 people, right? Or is it 10? Whatever number it is.
It's so strange. Now, in this society, it's what, it's November 22nd, timestamp it. Simply going to a restaurant and walking from the bathroom or from the table to the bathroom without a mask is a form of protest. Meeting with your family is now a form of protest. The simple things that are about who we are intrinsically, good or bad, being an alcoholic and wanting to be drunk at 2 a.m, is now a form of protest.
Yeah.
It's just a very bizarre, strange world that we're existing in. I don't know if I answered your question.
No, you can go however many tangents you want. I have plenty of space on my phone anyways. Yeah. Another thing too, so I think it would be kind of shocking for some of my classmates to see you with the MAGA hat on.
Well, why are they shocked? I think that shock is on them, not on my individual.
Oh no, yeah, of course, but that's what I'm saying. Where it's like, kind of give that perspective of like, how does that hat make you feel? Because that's sort of, in some people's view, that's sort of like having the Nazi armband on.
Right.
So it's like, how can I say? So
I understand.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I can understand your question. So what you're saying is like other people that look at me and see me with this hat are going to judge me and they think something. I could say, what about a yarmulke? What about hijab? What about saggy pants? It's the same exact thing that we're speaking about in terms of judging people just by outward affections. So if someone's going to be upset, like, look at this guy. I'm judging this guy. Sorry. No, don't film. Sorry. But like, if someone's gonna judge someone from their outward affections, it's the same exact thing. It's like your classmates don't know me. So they're gonna see my skin color, and and they're going to see my hat,
And
and they're going to be like, okay, well, this black person must think like this, and because this, they're going to have their mind blown because they are assuming way too much about me. I mean, maybe they'll see this video or this film and they'll have a different perspective, but at this exact moment, if they just see this, they're like, oh wow, how is that guy? Like that's a form of racism. That is a form of racism, because I get to be an individual. And I will say, just for those folks that are wondering, I wear this hat because for 4 years I was called a racist. I was called a misogynist. I really did the research, and at the beginning I didn't know anything about Donald Trump, and I had to go so deep to prove my understanding. And when I finally understood and I accepted what I understood, I went on Amazon and bought this hat, and I don't wear it very often, and I have to find places. I have to find allies to wear this.
Yeah.
Because even my wife hit this hat off my head. It's not funny.
Yeah.
Because, like, think about that. Like, the boarding up stores, my wife hit a hat off my head because she was upset. That violence, that upset, that anger.
But it's justified in their mind. It's how dare you wear that?
It is justified. I mean, you punch a Nazi, and then again, it's the same thing. It's like you see somebody, you know, and they're like, have a MAGA hat. Now they're a Nazi. Now you're allowed to punch them. It doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, we are living in bizarro times to the level of 1 billion. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So another question is so how do you feel about, or how racist do you think Joe Biden and Kamala Harris is? Because for 4 years we were given propaganda that Trump is racist, and my own personal beliefs and my own research, I am fully convinced that Biden and Kamala Harris are both racist.
Whoa. Yeah. Well. Fuck. Yeah. So yes, I think that Biden is very biased to the point of having enough necessary power to be racist in terms of the crime bill. He has the power to over 47 years wield power federally and make guidance over our entire country, which put a lot of black people in jail for things that people are now making money on the stock market about. Weed, you know, it's like people are making so much money now for things that people like me, just because we were holding it, are in jail. Kamala Harris, you know, saying like, oh, if your kids don't go to school, we're going to arrest your parents. You know, keeping people in jail past their time, using them for firefighting. People that were put in jail, wildfires. Thank you. People that were put in jail based on crime bills that are biased towards black people, and then using those people to fight fires, putting their in harm's way, and then once they get out of jail, if they get out of jail, not being able to get a job as a firefighter. You know, so in terms of racism, and the problem thing is, like, saying someone's racist has been lost all meaning.
Yeah.
It's lost all meaning. So I want to say yes, but it's like, if I say yes, then I have to say this, and this, and this.
Yeah.
You know, like
that question was more sort of like the same way how they say it with Trump, where it's like it's all emotional, you know. Because I know a lot of people in our class, when we talked about the election, a lot of them were like, I'm so happy that Kamala Harris is the first such and such, and so on and so forth, and a lot of them didn't know about the crime bill. A lot of them didn't know about Kamala Harris's prosecution history.
Right.
So it's like, you know, where do we draw the line in terms of, you know, or how dangerous is an uninformed voter?
Dude, we're in the city. How dangerous is an uninformed voter? I would say a little less dangerous than Dominion software. How about that?
Okay, I like that. I like
I'll say
that.
just a little less.
You gotta be careful, because if I post this, they might take it down right away.
Oh gosh. Oh, sorry.
No, that's fine. But
I'm sorry. What your question? How dangerous is the uninformed voter?
Yeah.
The uninformed voter is very dangerous if they lean into the biases that they've learned. You know, if they think that, you know, black people are sad and poor, then they're like, oh, I want to send money to poor black kids. You know, like I'm not making sense. Let me try again. The uninformed voter is a danger to themselves and everybody. Yeah. This is the same exact thing that they were saying about Donald Trump at the beginning, saying it's a danger to you and everybody else. But what has happened over the last 4 years is a lot of people have become informed, hopefully, and have a kind of different understanding. So the uninformed voter is dangerous. They need to be informed. But what is more dangerous than the uninformed voter is the voter that believes that they know everything, that they know the truth. Because in the beginning, I didn't know anything. I was like, well, I don't know, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. And then I learned. But there's people that you can say, hey, Dominion, software, Russiagate was fake, and they're like, doesn't matter, it's still racist. You're like, oh, but
Donald Trump went through an impeachment process, and some of them completely forgot about that.
Yeah, well, the Donald Trump is like the platinum plan, like the work, not the work zones, the opportunity zones.
Yeah.
Thank you. The HBCs, like if he's a racist, he's the worst racist in the possible world. Because not only did, specifically with the HBCUs, he didn't just say come back in 4 years. He said 10 years worth of funding, past Biden. He didn't say I need you to give me money. I need your support. He said you need it. So there you go.
Yeah, I think that was a quote where he said he met with them and and he was like, I don't want you coming here every year to ask. Here you go.
Yeah,
but still come back to visit me.
Yeah, come back. And he didn't say come back in 4 years. And when it's time for my re-election, he said come back in 10 years. Just come visit me. I mean, he didn't say that, but it was a very powerful, because I didn't even know that. I knew he gave money to the HBCUs. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Yeah. And people were like, well, it's just a stunt. And then I found out it was for 10 years. I'm like, this guy is serious. Yeah. You know, that's not racism. That is, even if it's a stunt for a racist person, it's a beautiful stunt. And since you don't mind if I rant for a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
So regarding Kamala Harris being like the first black woman, you know, they did that with Obama already.
Well, not to interrupt you, but like they've changed that first title like 5 different times. First it was first African American,
right,
and then they were like, wait, no, well she's half Indian, half Jamaican. First black, and then first Asian, Pacific, and like it wouldn't stop.
Right.
And my personal opinion on like being the first anything kind of labels you the first loser, you know, where it's like you're the first to do this, but other people have done it before you, you know. So it's sort of like a backhanded compliment, the way I view it.
Well, I think that with talking about Kamala Harris, they're using that first sight thing because they're using the same Obama tactic. You know, like when Obama, I'm a black guy, and with Obama being the first black president, where am I? I was 2 blocks away from here, walking home from when he got elected the first time, and people were going crazy, screaming, and I'm just walking down the street. I'm like, okay, this is good. This is really good for black people because young kids are going to see themselves represented in higher office. Beautiful. But what everyone was forgetting was, hey, this is just a person who has a job. Is it going to be a good job? Is it going to be a bad job? I don't care what color you are, your sexuality, your religion. I don't care about any of that. But if you were going to be like, I want to cut down all the trees in the park. Okay, well, no, I don't want you to do that. It doesn't matter if you're the first black or the first white or the first les or the first Q. It does not matter. If you're going to cut all the trees down, then you have a problem. So the substance of character is important. So with Kamala Harris, her substance of character is abysmal.
to say the least.
To say the least.
Exactly, yeah.
To say the least, it's abysmal.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So I think I have one final question. Again in the book, it mentions Black Lives Matter and how that's been a big empowerment movement for the black community and minorities and people of color. So what are your thoughts on the Black Lives Matter movement in terms of how it started to how it is today?
Well, that's easy. That's a great question. So Black Lives Matter as a movement started, in my mind, and I've heard other people saying it started before, but in my mind it started with Bernie Sanders when those Black Lives Matter folks got up on stage and were like, we have an issue, we want to talk about it. The issue of police, shooting black people, big issue, very important, very strong. What happened later, that organic group got all the way up to Hillary Clinton. I don't know if you remember when they were talking to Black Lives Matter, and they were like, listen, Hillary Clinton said, listen, all you have to do is organize. Send me this, send me a list, and then we can move forward. What happened then? They organized. They became an Inc. Then they started becoming a business. And as soon as they became a business, they lost sensibilities in terms of organic movements. I mean, like Black Lives Matter is tearing up black streets, tearing up black businesses, because it's not organic movement anymore. It is a controlled movement. Now, and I would even say that I love Black Lives Matter movement. I hate Black Lives Matter Incorporated.
Yeah, so like the spirit of Black Lives Matter, because I sort of agree too, where I feel like there was a real spirit to it,
A true spirit.
But then to an extent, it got like infiltrated. I think when the riots happened or the peaceful protests in Kenosha, I think one of the funniest memes was it was like a used car sales lot that they had a sign that said Black Lives Matter, but the whole place was on fire. Yeah, so. It's, I don't know, I think it's really, it's self-destructive to a point.
And again, I don't think people are dumb. You know, I talked about how this is planned. I think that the Black Lives Matter Incorporated with Antifa, I'll say it, have worked next to each other to literally tear down statues that represent our history, to tear down buildings that support neighborhoods, to take people who are simply dining, trying to have a real normality life, and knocking their tables over, you know, punching people from behind. You know, it's like there is a something wrong with BLM Incorporated, and it shouldn't be that way, because like the police officers defund the police. It's like no. Just stop the corruption, save the money, and then give them more money so they can get special services. So that if there is a handicapped person or a mentally ill person, then they have the money. Then they can send a crew to that, not defund and let's just have like community people. It doesn't make any sense.
Because as an aspiring psychologist, right now I'm a psych major. I'm thinking about going into social work or trying to help my community in terms of mental health. And I think it's really idiotic how they're chanting that, or not chanting, but they're saying how cops shouldn't go up to people, or police shouldn't go up with loaded guns to people. It should be a social worker going to these dangerous situations. So, you know, in terms of speaking to my future self, how would I be able to protect myself as a social worker with a deranged person that might be armed or unarmed?
In the future, how would you be able to deal with if the police weren't around?
Yeah, if police weren't around.
Well, you know, why we're here is so we don't have that new normal. Because what you're asking me a hypothetical, and unfortunately I can't answer it, because how? Because like right now, well, that's on the other side of the precipice. How, if we lose, if everyone wears masks, if we're mandated to stay inside, if you can't do anything, if the police are defunded, and you get a job as a social worker and you have to go out, I don't know. I mean, I can say, well, let's defund the police slightly and have one person with a gun walk around. You know, like I don't know. The idea of your security in the future is why we are here. That is why we're here. Yeah, exactly. That's why I wear this hat. That's why I have to defend what I believe is true, because I don't want you to have to worry about getting shot by a person or getting strangled or falling down some stairs because you feel unsafe, because you're in a situation where the rules have been changed, where you are now defending yourself or relying on community protection, which is called the mob.
Yeah, exactly.
Like mafioso.
Exactly. Oh, perfect.
Hey.
Yeah. But I do understand. It does kind of make sense how, you know, what's going on. How it is sort of like a loaded hypothetical, because you know there's too many factors playing into till we get to that actual point. Right. And even if we were at that point, you know, when them saying we're gonna ban chokeholds, you can't have tasers anymore, or how Joe Biden said, just shoot him in the leg, it's okay. You know, so it's like,
just shoot him in the artery. Just shoot him in the artery.
So it's in that case, it's like, what do we really do? You know, how are we able?
The thing is that we are doing it. This is the biggest thing. We are doing it. About 4 or 5 years ago, police didn't have body cameras. All this stuff went down, and they got body cameras. They got funding for body cameras. Things are moving forward. You can't just rip everything down when there's actual progression. All these police officers are getting caught planting evidence, shooting people, because of the voice of the people that said we don't want this. So now we're saying, put your body cams on, now you have no guns, and actually don't even show up. What?
Yeah, don't show up, put the social workers in
there.
Put
the social workers in it, doesn't matter. Like, it is a hard job, and there are bad people, and there are good people, but there is progression. I brought up Ruby Bridges earlier. There are steps that our government is putting in place based on the will of the people to make our lives better. We can't just tear shit down just to make it better, maybe. You know, we have to work towards it. Now, I'll say this one other thing. Like with the ripping down statues, since I brought it up down. There was a statue, and I don't remember, I think it was, I'm going to make up a place, I think it was Minneapolis, I don't remember exactly where it was. But about 4 or 5 years ago, it was a black neighborhood. There was a statue that was, I think it was Thomas Jefferson or somebody, I'm sorry, I don't remember exactly what it was.
Double check it.
But they petitioned the city, signed everything, and they were like, hey, you're right, okay, people. And they took the statue down and they moved it away safely. Didn't have fall on anybody's head. But now they're saying the system's broken, let's just tear it down ourselves. Okay, are you going to get a demolition truck to move it when it's done? No. There's processes in our government that are in place in every single problematic area. Sexism, racism, misogyny, everything is being worked on. Everything.
Yeah.
And what's even more important is specifically in these last 4 years, everyone is so incensed and aware that it's even going to be worked on more. And we can't just tear things down.
Yeah.
We can adjust. I mean, like another example is like the electoral college. Like, let's get rid of it. It's like, wait, you're not even going to talk about adjusting it. You're just going to say, get rid of it?
That's another thing too. In my actual debating current controversies class, it's a poli-sci class. My professor took 15 minutes out of the lecture, so 15 minutes that we paid for, to explain to a class of 25 people what the electoral college was. And I think that's very, very worrisome, especially in an election year. How 20 to 25-year-olds in a college class don't know what the electoral college is, but somehow they want to abolish it. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, it's like, I do applaud your professor for explaining it. I mean, because saying, oh, you guys are so old, you don't need to know this information is different, but that is the truth. People want to destroy things that they don't understand.
Yeah.
Yes, he's not going to stop.
Alrighty, so you have like a quick rant again, like any 10 seconds, 20 seconds, minute, whatever you want to say for the next few seconds.
Do I have a rant that I want to talk about? Okay.
Whatever
All
it may
right.
be.
I have a perfect segue. So I am allowed to smoke these cancer-causing things.
Yeah, me too.
Nice.
I got the red ones.
You got the red ones.
Yeah,
We might have to do a little trade.
to match my political party.
I can smoke these, proven to kill me, making money for people, and if I'm not smoking, I have to wear a mask. So I can either kill myself with a cigarette, or I can wear a mask and kill the grandma. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, but we are living in such a bizarre time where things are on their head, and there's people that are walking around there accepting that, and they're accepting it because of the propaganda over the last 4 years about hatred and division and everything, Yeah, so I just say, like, thanks for learning. I mean, I'll say this, like, at SU,
Oh, they know somebody over there dropped something.
at SU, all these students who are going through different programs, doctors, lawyers, journalists, everything, it's a university, everyone, they all stopped their education to go protest. And then and this was like 2 years ago, and as they were protesting, they got upset that they weren't getting the right pizza. And then when the school, with COVID hit, they were all upset that they didn't get an education. I was like, if you want an impact change, get skilled at what you are passionate about, and then go into the world. Now, you were talking about racism earlier. Like, as a black person, I'm 40 years old, about to be 40 years old. I learned this when I was a kid, and the only thing I thought was, hey, but if I get really good, then I can go in and I can show everybody that, hey, I'm a good theater person. And then I don't have to say, hey, I need affirmative action. I'll just be good at it. But right now, the activist education that's happening, because I took sociology, I took psychology, I took all that stuff too. Right now, they're teaching people to hate and not to develop their skills. And again, it's smart.
I think if anything, what you just said, I think it goes in line to what Martin Luther King said, where it's judge me by the content of my character, not the color of my skin. And now we're being propagated with judge us by our color, not the content of our character.
Exactly. It's very strange, but I think that we will eventually fix it. Because in the long run, if Trump wins, then yay. And if Biden wins, then everyone who's going to be aware and they're like, oh, wait. Our country is pretty strong, no matter what happens, as long as we stay and fight for it.
Exactly.
So that's it.
Appreciate it, man.
Thanks,
Thank
man.
you so much. I'm going to go on a smoke break now.